Alright guys, welcome to another Heroes Call video. Um, I'm trying out a new headset, so the audio may or may not be better, worse, etc, etc. Um, I have been doing some gear looting while I was off camera, just so that you guys don't have to sit through the endless tedium. I will be doing a little bit at the beginning of the video just to give an idea of what I've been doing. So that you guys can do so on your own with, you know, details on how I go about it. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and start my timer. Set timer for 1 hour. Come on. There we go. Good, good. Alright, so we fast travel. Control F.
Fast travel. Farhaven.
Farhaven.
Choose a location. Southgate.
Go to the south gate.
Entering north-south road.
Alright, now we walk north. Alright, so if you listen on the left side, we passed a number of items. Then we passed an open road, a small road, small wall difference, and then another opening. That leaves us with an alley on the west. If we turn left with shift left, west.
Alley 215, fence 15, Nigel's house door 26.
Okay, so we're gonna head west along this.
Entering alley.
Alright, we've got a door to our right, which is now our north.
General store lock door 1.
That says General Store Lock Door 1. Because we have Simeon in the party, he's able to unlock doors, so we're gonna...
Simeon stealthily unlocks the locked door as you pass. Okay.
Perfect. I'm gonna head in.
Entering general store. Entering storeroom.
As you can hear, there's a whole bunch of items. I'll hit I.
Empty shelves. Shelves.
Looks like all the
Shelves.
shelves are already empty.
Shelves. Empty shelves. Empty crate. Empty crate. 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 Crate.
Oh, we got a bad run today. 3 shelves, 3 crates, 2 empty shelves, and 1 empty crate. But that's okay. So, the way this game works is instancing. Every time you fast travel or you use the enter key to move between areas, it's opening a new instance of the area. It's loading everything off the ground. So all these items get respawned every single time you fast travel to the city or you use enter to move from the forest to the city or the mines to the city, etc, etc. And vice versa, when you go into the mine from the city, it's loading a new instance of the mine. So if you go in, one of my favorite areas is actually the forest. When you first go from the north gate into the forest, there's I believe it's 4 skeletons right there on the main road, like instantly visible from the gate. And so you can run forward, grab those 4 skeletons, and then just fast travel back to the north gate, spin around 180 using shift left, or shift right, hit enter to go through the north gate into the forest, and those skeletons are right back where they were. Now, obviously, just like the save and load method that I'm going to be using here and that I've shown you in the past, it is completely randomized as to what's in those skeletons and what's on these shelves and in these crates.
Shelves 3.
Okay, so I'm facing the shelves. I used Control D to snap to the next object.
Which file? Nathalos.
Save.
Game save.
Open.
What will you take? Novice Ring of Vitality 1 of 2.
Now, when I'm farming, all I go for is numbers. In this case, there's 2 items on a shelf. That's generally what the cap is on the shelf, so I'm going to
Taken.
grab those. I'm going to Control D.
Crate 2.
Oh, there's a crate.
Which file? Nathalos. Game save.
Now, crates, I always aim for 3, but sometimes you're lucky and you get a 4.
What will you take? Rusty Iron Battle Axe 1 of 2.
Only 2 items, so we're going to escape.
Pause menu.
Escape.
Load a saved game.
We're already on load, so we'll hit enter.
Which file will you load? Nathalos.
We're already on Nathalos, so we're going to hit enter.
Entering storeroom.
And we're going to open the crate again.
What will you take? Laborer's Clothes 1 of 2.
Only 2 items.
Pause menu. What will you take? Laborer's Clothes 1 of 4.
4 items this time, so we're going to grab them.
Taken.
1, 2,
Taken.
3,
Taken.
4. Control D.
Shelves 2.
Shelves.
Which file? Nathalos.
Save.
Game saved. What will you
Enter to
take?
Open.
Weak Potion of Greater Healing 1 of 1.
There's only 1 item. Sorry. Escape,
Pause
escape,
menu. Which
enter,
what will you
enter.
take? Initiates Ring of Vitality 1 of 1.
One item, escape,
Pause
escape,
menu.
enter, enter,
What will you
enter.
take? Rabbit's Foot 1 of 1. Pause menu. What will you take? Initiates Ring of Vitality 1 of 2.
2 items.
Taken,
Grab
taken.
them both.
Grade 1.
Another
Which file will
crate,
Nathalos?
save.
Game save. This container is empty. Empty crate 1.
It wasn't empty a second ago.
Pause menu. Pause menu.
Pause.
Load a saved game. Which
Load.
file will you load? Entering storeroom. What will you take? Diluted Poison of Confusion 1 of 1.
Not empty anymore, but there's only 1 item.
Pause menu. What will you take? Weak Potion of Greater Healing 1 of 2.
2 items.
Pause menu. What will you take? Rusty Iron Greaves 1 of 2.
2 items.
Pause menu. What will you take? Laborer's Clothes 1 of 1. Pause menu. What will you take? Rusty Iron Dagger 1 of 2. What will you take?
Not much luck on this one.
Rusty Iron Helmet 1 of 4.
Here we go, 4.
Taken. Taken.
Perfect.
Grade 1.
Another
Which
crate.
Nathalos.
Save.
Game save. What will you take? Iron Greaves 1 of 3.
3 items.
Taken.
Off the
Taken.
rip.
Shelves 2.
Shelves 2.
Which Nathalos.
save.
Game save. What will you take? Initiates Ring of Vitality 1 of 2.
2
Taken.
items.
Taken.
Grab. And
Empty shelves. Empty shelves. Empty shelves. Empty shelves. Empty shelves. Empty crate. Empty crate. Empty crate. Empty crate. Empty crate.
Completely empty. Perfect.
Choose a
We're
beacon.
going to go ahead
Blacksmith.
and use beacon to get to the blacksmith to start.
South. North.
Wall 3.
South. South.
Empty
South.
shelves 2.
Southwest.
We ran into a wall.
Northwest.
General store door 0. General store wall 0.
Northeast.
General store door 0. Entering alley.
East.
North south.
East. East.
Entering north south road. Leaving north south road.
South.
City wall 7.
South. East.
Trash
East.
heap 22.
East. East.
Southeast watchtower city wall 15. Press the enter key to enter Farhaven sewers.
East.
Okay, so this is another sewer
East.
entrance, very close to
East.
the south gate.
East.
I'm gonna go ahead and cancel that beacon real quick. If you enter the Farhaven from the south gate, like you do at the very beginning of the game, or if you fast travel to the south gate and immediately head down this road to the right or east, listen for that water sound and it'll lead you to this other sewer entrance. There's 2 from the city that I've found. One over by the Adrianus Manor that I've already marked in a previous video. I believe that was the second video. It was either the first or second. And then this other entrance that I usually call the south sewer entrance. So I'm going to go ahead and control B for beacon.
Choose a beacon. Blacksmith. Set custom beacon.
End to get to the set custom.
Enter a name for the new beacon. S T
South
H space S E W R
Sewers.
S.
And we're going to go ahead and
Which file will you save
that.
to? Create a new save file. Nathalos. Game save.
Perfect. Okay.
Choose a beacon.
We're going to
Blacksmith.
go back to the blacksmith beacon.
East. East. North.
Fence
North.
0.
North.
Small gate 0. Entering forge.
North.
my friend.
Okay.
Jerome the armorer 2.
What's your pleasure, my friend?
Does that guy? What can you tell me? Do you have any advice for adventurers? I'm looking for some gear. You have
There's
1,184
no
gold.
substitute for good steel.
Pine cudgel, 60 gold. You have 1,001. Blessed dagger. Traveler's clothes, 6
All right,
gold.
let's see. Traveler's clothes.
Traveler's clothes, 6 gold. Armor rating, 7. No effects.
Not really.
You have one. Traveler's clothes, 6 gold. Traveler's clothes. Traveler's clothes. Traveler's clothes. You have traveler's clothes. You traveler's clothes. You traveler's clothes. You have traveler's clothes. You traveler's clothes. You have traveler's clothes. You traveler's clothes.
As you can
6
see,
gold.
I've got quite a few items.
You have one. Smith's apron, 10 gold. Smith's apron, 10 gold. Armor rating, 9. Resist 30% of fire damage.
Not bad resistance to fire, but we're not really seeing any fire damage right now.
You have Smith's apron. You 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 have Smith's apron. You Smith's apron. You Smith's apron. You Smith's apron. You have Smith's apron. You have Simeon's clothes. Rusty iron shield. Rusty iron shield. You rusty iron shield. You rusty iron shield. You rusty iron shield. 12
My
gold.
apologies. I'm going to go ahead and do this off screen as well. Now that I think about it, this is a lot.
You have
There's
1,480
no
gold.
substitute for
He has
good
for
Pine
steel.
cudgel. Pine cudgel, 60 gold.
A pine cudgel.
Knocks the target to the ground. 3% chance.
Eh.
Fine iron greatsword, 286 gold.
Oh.
Weapon rating, 38.
No.
Fine iron short sword, 130. Iron battle axe, 100. Iron shield, 7. Leather cuirass, fine iron greaves, heavy traveling cloak, 42 gold. Fine iron greaves.
Actually.
Armor rating, 13. No effects.
Go ahead and grab that.
Leather cuirass, fine iron greaves, 156 gold. Heavy traveling cloak, fine iron helmet, 100. And iron helmet, pine cudgel, 60 gold.
Remember, I'm here for all your weapon and armor needs.
Leaving forge.
Something else I've forgotten to do in the past is actually go into inventory.
Inventory. Blessed dagger 1 of 215.
Apparently I did off screen. That's disappointing. I apologize. Let's go ahead and read that tip then.
Current quests. Tutorial log. Basic combat.
If you have a tutorial tip that you can't remember off the top of your head, use Control Q. That brings up your quest log. And then if you Shift Tab, you'll be in the tutorial section.
Basic combat.
This is all the tutorials we've got. The basic combat, items.
You can get additional information about an item's characteristics and effects using the number keys. Pressing space provides a physical description of the item. To use an item, or to take an item from a container, press enter. OK. Tutorial log. Getting info. Units. Getting info. Items. Equipping items. Leveling up. New locations. Quest updates. Quest log. Upgrading skills. Another adventure. Matthias the Ranger. Sister Alexia. Basic combat.
Interesting. It's not showing it. Okay. Well, anyway.
Inventory. Blessed dagger 1 of 215.
So as you can see, there's 215 items. I'm not going to go through all those right now. You guys don't need to deal with that. But I will show you the different categories. This first category is the entire massive list. We hit tab.
Armor. Canvas pants 1 of 55.
Okay, so we have 55 armor items.
Weapons. Blessed dagger 1 of 54.
54 weapons.
Magical apparel. Gwen's clothes 1 of 70.
Magical apparel is a little different. Magic clothing, magic pendants, amulets, armor, etc. go in here. Armor only goes in here technically if it is listed as armor. But a diadem or something like that would go under the magic category.
Potions and food. 3 essence of elderwood 1 of 15.
And this is obviously, again, potions and food. I believe poisons also go under here.
Miscellaneous. A guide to Deepwood Forest 1 of 22.
Now this is a good section, and I'm actually going to go ahead and read these books. So a guide to... I apologize for that clicking in the background. It's another game that I'll be covering in the future. But I'll go ahead and read a guide to Deepwood.
The Forest of Deepwood is among the most ancient and mysterious locations surrounding Farhaven. It is home to a variety of flora and fauna, ranging from deer, small rodents, and various species of birds to the aggressive and dangerous deepwood spiders, unnaturally large arachnids with venomous fangs. These spiders, along with other dangerous predators, make it imperative that travelers use caution when traveling far from the areas patrolled by the city guard.
Okay, we're going to hit tab to see if there's any more pages.
Marcus Adrianus, the second governor of Farhaven, oversaw the construction of the Great North Road, which cuts through the forest and leads to the port cities of the north. The forest is also crisscrossed with various small footpaths. Some of these paths are used by the animals of the forest, and lead to sources of water or shelter. Others have been beaten out by hunters and rangers. An ancient road, which predates the construction of Farhaven, also cuts across the forest, running from east to west.
Okay.
The East Road itself far predates Farhaven, as is evidenced by the ancient temple at which it terminates, near the eastern borders of the woods. Some historians believe this temple was used by the ancient elves, while others contend that it was built by a race of men who made their home in the forest and later migrated north to form the great port cities. In years long past, before the consolidation of Farhaven's power, a military outpost existed in the far western reaches of the forest. A garrison of soldiers was stationed in a fort near the heart of the woods, and watchtowers guarded against unwanted travelers on the ancient road. In more recent years, the peace and security that reigns in Farhaven has made the maintenance of a military presence in the forest unnecessary.
Nice.
However, a unique force does still guard the northern reaches against attack. When the old fort was abandoned, it was replaced by a force of rangers who patrol the forest. This unofficial extension of Farhaven City Guard is incredibly effective, as all Deepwood Rangers are masters of woodcraft. However, even with their intimate knowledge of the forest, there is no doubt that Deepwood still has secrets known to none, just waiting for the adventurous explorer to discover.
Interesting. Alright, and pressing tab doesn't change the page, which means we've gotten to the end. So you hit enter.
Miscellaneous. A Guide to Deepwood Forest 1 of 22.
And we're back out. I'll go ahead and read the next book.
A Guide to Farhaven Graveyard 2 of 22.
Guide to Farhaven Graveyard.
The graveyard that sits just beyond the east gate of Farhaven is a melancholy reminder of the long history of the city. The graves of countless Farhaven citizens crowd the funeral plots, each with its own story to tell.
Tab.
Along with the many graves, several mausoleums also stand in the graveyard. These ancient structures serve as the final resting places for members of some of Farhaven's most venerable houses. For more information on these houses, consider the noble houses of Farhaven.
Okay.
Beneath the graveyard lies a series of ancient catacombs. These catacombs can be accessed through each of the mausoleums by a network of tunnels carved centuries ago.
And we've gotten to the end, so we enter.
Miscellaneous. A Guide to Arcane Poisons and Their Applications 3 of 22.
So this is that arcane poisons and their applications that we got out of Lord Adrianus's bedroom.
Preface. The poisons described in this tome are extremely dangerous, and the recipes given require an extreme degree of alchemical skill. Proceed with caution. Draught of Eversleep, a sleeping draught of unrivaled power. Any drinker of this poison will fall into a deep slumber. The only known remedy for this draught is a curative elixir made from the powdered leaves of an elder trecan, blended with purified waters under the light of a 3/4 moon. Most victims of this poison die of malnourishment if a remedy is not readily available. Cordial of Subservience, a powerful potion that renders the drinkers will highly susceptible to domination. Traditionally used by dark mages to force their subjects into carrying out particularly undesirable tasks. A strong enough will can resist the cordial, but few have the necessary charisma to do so. The effects of this poison can be undone by a powerful potion of clarity. Heart rot, a deadly poison that causes decay in any organic victim. A person who drinks a dose of heart rot will be dead within days. It can also be introduced into a water supply to poison plants, though the decay occurs more slowly, and can be reversed if the water is purified. There is no known cure for heart rot.
Not enjoyable. But apparently that's everything. Okay.
Miscellaneous. Arcane Poisons and Their Applications 3 of 22. Edrosmai, The Early Years 4 of 22.
This is an interesting one.
In the storied past of Farhaven, few heroes stand as tall in memory as Edrosmai. What follows is a summary of his life and adventures. The life of Edrosmai began in scandal. His father was a wealthy merchant, a member of the social elite in Stony Bay Port. His mother was Syrian Mai, one of the last members of the swiftly vanishing elven race. For a wealthy socialite in Mai's day, there was no shame in having a mistress. However, having an elven mistress was the height of social impropriety. As such, Edrosmai's father disowned him at birth and severed all ties to Syrian, fearing how the child would impact his reputation.
Not cool.
Raising a child as a single mother is difficult enough. For an elf living on the fringes of society, it was nearly impossible. When her son was still young, Syrian sought refuge in an elven mission sponsored by the Temple of the Divine. She could not have known how this decision would change her life. It was there that Syrian met Silas Arrhenius, a missionary of the Divine. Over time, the two fell in love, with Arrhenius eventually taking her as his wife, and raising Edros as his own son.
Ah.
It should now be clear to the reader that Edrosmai was forever a man of two worlds, half elf, half man, born to the social elite, yet cast out to the edge of society, raised with a mother who honored the traditions of the elves, and a father who followed the way of the divine. It is little surprise, then, that Edrosmai never quite fit in. As a youth, the boy proved himself exceptionally bright and charming, with his natural elven talents setting him above his peers in many regards. However, he never found a place in the society of Stony Bay, despite his skills and qualifications. With no real prospects in the city, and burdened by a sense of restlessness that had plagued him as long as he could remember, Edrosmai joined the Stony Bay Border Patrol. The physical prowess gained from his elven heritage made Mai an ideal soldier, and since the Border Patrol was deployed far outside the city limits, there was less political pressure against commissioning a half-elf than there would have been Tahi City Watch. Mai's skills and charisma quickly earned him the rank of lieutenant, and he was assigned command over a detachment of patrol rangers. His innate skill with the bow was legendary by this time, and the archers under his command soon rose in fame throughout the Border Patrol. It was also at this time that goblin raiding parties began to appear more frequently on the surface world. Mai's soldiers were assigned to the forests south of Stony Bay, and led several successful raids against the goblins. However, while they successfully defended the southern front, the goblins led a massive blitz attack on Fort Regent, west of Stony Bay. The fort fell, and the Great Goblin War had begun in earnest. Much of the blame for the goblin attacks fell on the governor of Stony Bay, and he was quickly ousted. This was an important moment in the story of Edros Mai, as the newly elected governor was none other than his own father. While few in the court of nobles knew about Mai's lineage, the secret was known to him, and to the new governor. Out of desire to prove himself to the father who had discarded him, Mai volunteered to lead the assault to recapture Fort Regent. He was the only captain willing to volunteer, as all others recognized the attack for what it was, a suicide mission. The other captains were right. The attack was a disaster, with all but a few of Mai's men slaughtered. Those who survived were taken prisoner and brought to the palace of the Goblin King to be tortured. After enduring weeks of torture, Mai was scheduled to be executed in the Goblin's gladiator arena. But on the night before his execution, he got the drop on one of his guards and was able to escape. His escape, however, came at a price. The guard overpowered didn't have the key to the manacle binding him to the dungeon wall, leaving him no choice but to sever his own left hand.
Ow.
With the loss of his hand, he was forced to rely on single-handed bladed weapons in combat from that day on. Ironically, for all his skill with a bow, Mai is today known as a legendary swordsman. His goblin captors could never have imagined that this terrible injury would forge him into one of the most deadly artists with a blade that the world has ever seen. Badly injured, Mai still managed to fight his way to safety. He went on to be instrumental in the resolution of the Great Goblin War, and in the subsequent defense against the insurgent necromancer Alastair Ulcano. But those, dear reader, are tales for another time.
And that's the end of that.
Miscellaneous.
Alright.
Edros Mai,
What
the
else
early
do we
years
got?
4 of 22, Elemental Magic, and Introduction 5 of 22.
Elemental magic and introduction.
Since time immemorial, mages have been bending the three elements to their will. Fire, ice, and lightning have a variety of offensive applications. This volume provides an introduction to the uses of elemental magic. For more detailed information, we recommend Tristan Adrianus' Essential Spellcaster's Handbook. Fire magic is a manifestation of pure emotion. Its searing heat is useful against almost any foe. Many undead creatures are especially vulnerable to fire. A powerful fire spell can knock an opponent to the ground, giving the caster time to prepare other spells. Ice magic is cold and calculating, like the mages who use it. Most ice spells slow the target, and a powerful cryomancer can freeze an opponent solid. Ice magic is favored by those who prefer the debilitation of their foes over raw power. Lightning magic is favored by advanced elemental mages. If cast with enough strength, a lightning bolt can paralyze the target, rendering them helpless. Lightning magic requires incredible focus, and as such, drains the caster of more magical energy than most other elemental attacks. Miscellaneous. Elemental magic. Fundamentals of Commerce 6 of 22.
I actually really like how they slip some of these books in. For example, this next one. So, the elemental magic one we just read is pretty much a handbook on how you might want to play Gwen. Because she uses the three different elements, and your own character if you decided to go mage. But anyway. Because she has the three different elements, if you're the type who wants to deal damage and potentially paralyze your targets, you're going to want to pump your points into the lightning. If you're the type to just deal out raw damage and potentially knock things down or what have you, and not only that, but deal extra damage against undead, then you're going to want to go with the fire magic. If you want lower damage but higher chance to slow and freeze your enemies, then you would go with ice. This next one is commerce.
Fundamentals of Commerce 6 of 22.
Yep, fundamentals of commerce.
Supply and demand is the regula prima of economics, but it is not the only driving force. Read on to discover several principles for the most effective buying and selling of goods.
And so what's really cool is this is actually a layman's breakdown of how the shop system works in this particular game.
Never underestimate the value of convenience. A merchant can, and will, charge more for a variety of goods in a central, convenient location than for specialized goods off the beaten path, because people will pay. For the seller, the decision must be made whether time or money is of greater value.
And so in this case, they're talking about the general store. If you go to the general store, she has a selection of weapons, selection of armor, potions, magic items, etc. But they're always more expensive than if you actually go to the blacksmith, or to the potion shop, or to the temple, or what have you.
However, shopkeepers should also remember that by specializing in one type of item, you may be able to offer a greater variety. This will attract more discerning buyers, who are looking for a broader selection than they can find at a general store.
As it says right there, it calls it out at the general store. So if you go to the blacksmith, he's going to have a much wider range of what types of armors and weapons he's going to have, as compared to if you went to the general store and tried to buy from her.
If you intend to do business with any merchant, you should consider finding a way to enter their good graces. It is not uncommon for merchants to offer discounted prices as payment for services rendered, a winning arrangement for both parties involved.
And so this one tells you the merchants may or may not have quests. You take on the quests, complete the quests, and they might be willing to cut you a break on the cost or what have you.
A predictable inventory is the bane of successful business. Vendors should cycle their inventory regularly, to keep regular customers coming back to see what is in stock.
And so this one actually refers to the instancing I was talking about at the very beginning of this video. Just like how all of those crates and everything's are refilled every time you load an instance of the city, every time you load an instance of the city, all of the shopkeepers have entirely new inventory.
Traveling merchants may not have this luxury, however. In this case, a merchant out to carry only the finest and most valuable merchandise, to offset the unlikelihood of clients making repeat purchases.
I know what that's referring to, but it's a spoiler for later in the series of videos, so I'm not going to go ahead and comment on that at this time. But that is the end of that book.
Miscellaneous, Herbalogist's Field Guide 7 of 22.
Herbalogist's Field Guide isn't as useful to us at the moment since we don't have the person to help us collect herbs, but I'll go ahead and read it just because we have it.
Any naturalist worth his residual golem dust knows that the lands surrounding Farhaven are replete with valuable plants. It takes a trained eye to recognize these plants, but for those with the proper skills, this field guide will serve as a helpful reference. Blue moss, a very common form of flora. Blue moss can be found anywhere cool and damp. It is distinguished by its blue color. Blue moss has restorative properties and can be used as a natural gauze. The moss is naturally antiseptic, and is therefore completely safe. Kingsfoil, it is believed that this trefoil leaf plant was once cultivated by the elves, however now it is among the rarest and most valuable wild herbs. Kingsfoil is a healer's delight. It can be mixed into poultices, boiled in water for healing drafts, or eaten plain. Its natural healing powers are beneficial for both health, energy, and vitality.
Very nice.
Luminous Lycan, though it can be found in any cool, damp locale, this moss is most easily spotted in the darkness of caves, where its natural bioluminescence stands out more clearly in the darkness. Many mages claim that consuming this plant restores their magical energies, however, such claims are not within the realm of naturalistic inquiry, and are therefore beyond the scope of this resource. Monkshood, despite its holy name, this plant is a favorite of dark practitioners. It is among the most poisonous plants known to naturalists, and should therefore be picked only by those trained in its proper handling. The plant is easily recognized by the jagged edges of its five-pointed leaves. While this plant can be distilled into more powerful poisons, even coating a weapon with the natural secretions of the leaves can have deadly results.
Nice.
Nightshade, only slightly less poisonous than monkshood, these sun-shaped plants should be handled with great care. However, they are highly valuable, as a skilled alchemist can use nightshade in both poisons and restorative potions. It is found most commonly in graveyards, leading some fanciful minds to speculate that it feeds on the negative energy of the dead. Motherwort is not an attractive plant, with its purple stem and hairy grayish leaves. Few would want to pick this plant, let alone consume it. Nevertheless, its highly nutritious attributes mean that this plant can be used to restore a fair deal of energy when needed. Penicillin, this fungus has only recently been discovered, and much further study needs to be done before its full properties can be confirmed. However, initial tests do indicate that this plant may be used as a treatment for some poisons.
Okay.
Ranger's Respite, so called because of its popularity among the woodland rangers, this delicate, pale green herb is easy to miss for those who are not trained to spot it. However, for those such as the rangers of Deepwood, it can provide a much-needed source of sustenance during long journeys across country. Red algae, far more than base pond scum, this ruddy substance is well worth scooping off the surface of still waters wherever it may be found. If properly prepared, red algae can provide a boost of energy for even the most exhausted traveler. Sorcerer's Scuff, since this moss tends to be the same color as the tree bark where it often grows, it can be particularly difficult to find. Many magicians claim that it has powerful magical properties. It is included in this tome merely as a curiosity. Wildmint, when crushed, the leaves of this plant provide a cool and refreshing aroma. It is mostly prized as a garnish for fine cuisine, but can be consumed in the wild if necessary. Wolfsbane, the most naturally poisonous plant found in this area, wolfsbane should be avoided by all but the most practiced herbalists. Its appearance is distinctive, with 7 jagged leaves in a spiral pattern. Even touching this plant can lead to debilitating illness, and since the authors of this book can scarcely imagine a reason that a respectable citizen should need to possess such a virulent agent, we advise avoiding it altogether.
And that's the last one.
Miscellaneous. Meditations of Father GWYNNYN 8 of 22.
I'm not particularly fond of this one, so I'm not going to be commenting much, but I will read it for the sake of completeness.
Translator's note: the spiritual writings of Father GWYNNYN reflect the intersection between traditional piety of the one divine and the ancient religion of the elves. Great care has been taken to preserve the original meaning of the texts. However, since Father GWYNNYN wrote all of his personal meditations in Old Elven, and few extant translations remain of that ancient tongue, some editorial interpolations have been necessary. O Starfather of the Elven kindred, O one divine of men! Art thou not two, but one in thy purposes? Didst thou form my sisters and I of the water, flowing gently with the course of nature? With thy hands, didst thou form the brotherhood of men from the earth, rigid and unyielding? With which element was your hand most pleased, and in which did your heart take delight? These things, I ponder. When thy voice is silent in my mind, my heart hearkens to hear it. The stars above do sing in manifold harmony. Beneath, the stream doth laugh with merry glee. Applause roareth through the boughs of the trees as passeth by the breeze, and all living things give voice to their assent. The sun shouteth its greeting, and the waters give their glad reply, voiceth the moon a tender well met, and earth resoundeth with hearty response. How very full of song and sound is thy creation! Wherefore heareth we not? May I be water which floweth free, set within the confines thou hast placed yet unhindered by aught that would dissuade its course. May I be starlight that shineth bright, more gentle than a breath yet inexorable in claiming the darkness back from the night. May I be fire which burneth in ecstatic transience, touching all around me irrevocably though my life is brief. May I be air which whispereth, reaching all with the touch of my hand yet disturbing not that thou hast established. Wherefore make thou a thing of beauty destined to fade? I think on this as I gaze upon a flower fresh plucked by an uncaring hand. Oh, my people, whose memory even now fadeth as the lingering light of the waning moon. Is your dignity found not in the longevity of your life but the grace of your dying? Your beauty not in that which you bring, but the sorrowful silence you leave behind? Star maker, water shaper, wherefore findest thou pleasure in such as us? Is it in our dying that thou knowest us, and is it in the feeble, fading nature of our beauty that thou callest us thy children?
Okay.
Miscellaneous. Miner's Introductory Handbook 9 of 22.
Okay. The Miner's Introductory Handbook is probably a good thing for us to read, since the first thing we're going to do is go back into the mines and continue looking for that goblin trapdoor. So I don't know if I'll get to that today, but I will certainly be doing that next.
Greetings, miner. This handbook will provide you with a quick orientation to Silvershade Mine, where you will be working. Please note that this is not a comprehensive guide, so it is essential that you listen carefully to all instructions given by your foreman. Mining can be a dangerous profession, but if you read this introduction and listen to those with more experience, you'll do just fine. Most of your mining will probably be done in the primary ore vein, which has been the main source of Farhaven's iron supply since the first mining site in the northern caverns was depleted. The primary vein can be accessed directly through the primary mine shaft, which will be your main point of entry into the mines. Watch your step in this area. The expansion of the mining site has uncovered several natural fissures in the rocks. You wouldn't want to go tumbling down one of those.
Those would be the pits that you can't walk over.
Due to increased demand for iron, we are no longer able to rely solely on the primary ore vein. Many of the deposits have become depleted, and there is now a new mine shaft continuing east of the primary vein. Just off this shaft, you will also find a barracks carved out of the caverns. This will serve as a staging area for miners working beyond the primary vein. Please note that there are many naturally occurring caverns beyond the barracks and connected to the secondary ore vein. These caverns have not been mapped and should be explored with extreme caution. There may be untold riches waiting in some of those caverns, but those riches won't do you any good if you get yourself killed by a golem. Now that you've been introduced to the mines, you're ready to get to work. Consult the second volume of this handbook for information on your gear, safety procedures, and mining techniques.
Alright, that's the end of that one.
Miscellaneous. The Arcane Practicum 10 of 22.
The Arcane Practicum. Let's see.
Greetings, Apprentice Mage. In these pages, you shall find an introduction to many topics of interest for the inexperienced spellcaster. Your Master Wizard will expect a basic familiarity with these topics, so it is highly recommended that you review this entire volume before beginning your formal training. Elemental magic is the primary means of attack and defense for general magic users. Fire is the element with the most raw destructive power. Ice and lightning can both be used to debilitate enemies.
Okay, we kind of covered that already in the Elemental Introduction book.
When casting a damaging spell, the effectiveness is dependent upon the caster's willpower. Mages with strong wills will be able to unleash devastating attacks far more potent than any warrior.
We covered that too when we went over the various statistics and attributes that you can do.
Raw willpower is not enough for truly effective spellcasting, however. A mage must also train his or her mind to develop the intelligence to use magic effectively. Intelligent mages are far more accurate with their spells, and far more likely to succeed when casting spells that inflict effects but do not deal damage.
Yep, covered all that as well with the attributes.
Intelligence is also valuable to a mage, as it is the source of mana. Mana is the magical energy from which all spells are drawn. A powerful mage can deal more damage than the most heavily armed warrior, but never forget that an exhausted warrior can still swing their sword, whereas an exhausted sorcerer is defenseless. For this reason, mages are encouraged to train in basic melee or ranged combat as well.
Okay.
However, this presents a mage with a choice. The more one chooses to burden oneself with physical trappings, the more effort one must summon to conjure magic. A mage in simple robes may be felled easily by a blade, but his magic reserves will far outlast those of a mage burdened by armor. For this reason, many mages choose to eschew armor and instead train in defensive magic. With the appropriate defensive spells, you will find you have no need for plate or chainmail.
So that actually refers to, if you guys remember, as I was reading the statistics of various armor pieces, it says things such as 45 casting reduction, or I forget the exact wording. But what that does is it actually adds a % cost to the mana use. So if a spell costs 100 mana, and a piece of armor you're wearing increases that cost by 45, then that spell now costs 145 mana. Which means, obviously, you're going to run out of mana a lot faster.
When defensive spells fail, do not forget the healing powers at your command. If you desire true mastery of the healing arts, you should study holy magic as a member of the clergy. However, even elemental magic can be used to heal. If you develop a powerful enough resistance to an element, you will be able to absorb any attacks of that element and use them to restore your own vitality.
Interesting.
Miscellaneous. The 5 Pillars of Persuasion 11 of 22.
Okay. This is another book that we found from Lord Adrianus's bedroom.
Author's note, congratulations, reader. By turning this page, you take your first step into exerting subtle but irresistible influence over all with whom you come into contact. Such power should not be taken lightly, but fear not, the rules for how power may or may not be used, after all, are made by those who hold it. May the knowledge contained herein help you write your own rules. Best wishes, Macius Velius Ulcano. Pillar the first flattery, of all that distinguishes the human creature from his animal fellows, his ego is the most distinctive feature, and the most powerful. Convince a man that generosity is his most attractive feature, and he may well give you the shirt off his back. Tell him he is too important to be left unattended, and he will surrender his privacy to your watchful gaze. Pillar the second bribery, no request is so great that a price could not buy it. The key to acquiring another's acquiescence has less to do with offering him much, and much to do with learning what he desires most, and offering as little of it as you can. However, it will behoove you to overemphasize the cost to yourself, for if he believes you have paid him at great personal sacrifice, he will feel important, and you will have accomplished the first and second pillars in one simple act. Pillar the third intimidation, while man is unique among animals in his susceptibility to pride, he is like every other in his base desire for self-preservation. If you discover what another fears, you discover the key to his utter domination. Be careful, however, that any intimidation you apply is measured carefully, however. Too much, and the object of your attention may seek in desperation to defend himself; too little, and he may think in his arrogance that he is beyond harm. Better to be subtle, and craft the echoes of distant but certain doom, all disguised by the sweet serenade of proffered friendship.
Not too fond of the double however there, but...
Pillar the fourth suggestion, we now enter the realm of subtlety. To present another with your ideas is an easy task. To present another with ideas in such a way that he believes them to be his own is far more difficult. The rewards, however, are manifold. One is loath to heed another's counsel, and swift to heed one's own. Convincing an adversary that your counsel is his own guarantees that he will be your most militant ally in his own subjugation. Pillar the fifth extortion, while all beings fear harm to themselves, some who suffer from a more sensitive nature can be more readily influenced through threats of a different kind. The cunning manipulator need only discover what the adversary values most, be it treasure, family, or reputation, and place that item in jeopardy. Again, a delicate balance must be pursued, for those who fear loss the most fight most fiercely to prevent it.
Very true.
Miscellaneous. The Fox and the Mask 12 of 22.
Alright, the Fox and the Mask.
The fox stood before Alexei, his face hidden behind a black mask, his saber held loosely at his side. This was the moment Alexei had been waiting for, as long as he could remember. It was finally here. He charged, swinging his sword with all of his might. The fox barely seemed to move. A flicker of silver light as the tip of his blade darted up, that was all Alexei saw before he was spun to the side, carried by the momentum of his own sword. Again, the fox said, a faint smile touching his lips. Alexei glared, and charged. Again, the fox parried. This time, the fox twisted his blade as he blocked, sending Alexei's weapon flying from his hand. Strength isn't everything, the fox said, reaching out to catch the weapon before Alexei even realized he'd been disarmed. With enough dexterity, you can stop a warhammer with a dagger. He still wore that maddening ghost of a smile. Remember that. If you're going to be my apprentice, you'll need to learn finesse. Listen here, you cape-twirling old. Alexei paused, the words dawning on him too late. Wait, you said, apprentice. For a moment, the ghost of a smile on the fox's face almost became a real one. He gave an imperceptible nod and raised the tip of his saber into a ready position. Again.
Now that's actually pretty cool, because on the surface it's just a fun little story, and if you look deeper, I'm pretty sure I've heard of Alexei in one of the other books, although I can't remember off the top of my head which one now. But the really cool part is it explains that for a melee character, you're going to want to focus on not just strength for damage dealing, but also dexterity for parrying and agility for finesse, to be able to move faster than your enemy, hit faster than your enemy, and dexterity allowing you to parry your enemy properly.
Miscellaneous, the Great Gainsby 13 of 22. Once upon a time there was a man named Gainsby. He was fabulously wealthy, and as such was incredibly important and well liked. He attended fabulous parties, and only ever dined with fabulously wealthy people. And dine with them he did, quite often, and on quite fine fare. Since Gainsby was so fabulously wealthy, nothing bad ever happened to him. His life would have been quite dull, were it not for the extravagant parties, exquisite meals, and exotic women with which he was constantly entertained. There were many people who said Gainsby was immature, or shallow. They said that he needed to suffer some sort of tragedy or fall from grace, so that he could learn what really mattered in life. Those people had never been as fabulously wealthy as Gainsby, or they would never have said such things. Eventually, Gainsby died. Everyone was quite sure that he had lived a quite fine life, and he was buried with a great deal of gold and silver and fine clothes and wine and cheeses, in a very fine mausoleum which he had paid to have carved by hand by the finest of artisans. Many criticized Gainsby for not donating his wealth to those who needed it, but really, what rubbish. The moral, dear reader, is that if you are fabulously wealthy, nothing bad could ever possibly happen to you. If you are not fabulously wealthy, you will have to content yourself by reading about the lives of the fabulously wealthy. Please consult the index of other books from this publisher, in the back of this volume, for help finding your next escape into the world of the fabulously wealthy.
Alright.
Miscellaneous, the Noble Houses of Farhaven 14 of 22.
Oh, here we go. The book about the graveyards tells us to check this book out, so...
In the grand history of Farhaven, several families play roles of particular prominence. This volume provides a brief overview of the noble houses of Farhaven. For a more detailed history of these families and their role in the development of our city, we recommend Vincent Landero's An Essential Chronology of Farhaven and the Surrounding Regions.
I think this is also going to include that list of 8 families we were supposed to find in the graveyard for the professor.
House Adrianus, no family can claim a more prominent role in the long history of Farhaven than that of the Adrianus bloodline. Marcus Adrianus, who served as Farhaven's second governor, is widely regarded as one of the great figures in the city's history. A powerful mage as well as a statesman of undisputed renown, Marcus' tradition of balancing the arcane arts with the subtle skill of politics became the norm for his descendants. The Adrianus family has had more members serve as governor of Farhaven than any other clan, and 3 members have been named arcane master by the Council of Mages. Trentus Adrianus, who held both honors, is remembered for his leadership and defense of Farhaven during the Great Goblin War. The achievements of this noble family are too numerous to account in full, and are detailed in many topical volumes.
Okay, so maybe not the 8 founders that we're supposed to be looking for, but the mausoleums. My apologies.
House Lonario, by far the most populous of the noble houses, Clan Lonario is remembered not for its prowess in matters of state, but for its large population. In Farhaven's early years, a member of Clan Lonario was always present on the governing council. However, as time wore on, the house fell into disrepute among the other nobles. However, the prolific nature of the Lonario family led to their dominance over a great portion of Farhaven's economic and social landscape. This dominance came to a close when a vast majority of the clan perished during the Plague of Ashes. It is said that the crypts of the Lonario mausoleum are piled high with the bodies of all who died in those few short years.
Okay, so it's definitely the mausoleums, not the
House Mitronus, among the oldest houses in Farhaven, members of the Madrinus family take great pride in the preservation of their bloodline. They trace their heritage back to Trentius Madrinus, who founded Farhaven and served as its first governor. But perhaps the most famous member of the noble family is Alanso Madrinus, the warrior priest and governor of Farhaven who quelled the insurrection of the necromancer Alastor Ulcano. House Navincius. The Navincius family can boast a unique accomplishment. The 5 Navincius brothers Christoph, Corvus, Damon, Saul, and Victorio successfully maneuvered themselves into every prominent position of power, securing their family a political monopoly that lasted over a decade. In time, they were their own undoing. The 5 brothers were notoriously eccentric, some say mad, and in time their political hold dissolved amidst personal conflicts, inconsistencies, and illogical behaviors. Still, their temporary union serves as an example of the heights of power toward which every noble house strives, and so few ever achieve. House Ulcano. Long the rivals of House Adrianus, members of the Ulcano family are renowned among the greatest practitioners of magic in Farhaven's history. The last name of Ulcano has almost become synonymous with the position of Arcane Master, and none can remember a time when at least one member of the Council of Mages did not have ties to the Ulcano bloodline. The family's continued prominence is made all the more impressive by the total disaster that was nearly wreaked upon the family name by one man. Alastor Ulcano, whose attempted overthrow of Farhaven and subsequent reign of terror lives in legend, nearly destroyed the honor of the family name. But in the years since Alastor's death, the family has striven to erase all memory of their temporary fall from grace. Still, the body of Alastor Ulcano lies in a place of honor in the Ulcano family mausoleum, a fact that has led some historians to speculate that his radical sentiments are privately shared by many of his surviving relatives. House Valenport. The Valenport family is renowned throughout Farhaven for their incredible wealth. From the city's formative years, the Valenport family has been enmeshed in every level of the economy. But even wealth cannot slow the march of time, and as the many misers of House Valenport hermite themselves away to enjoy their fabulous riches, the bloodline slowly dwindled until, at last, none remained. It is a popular pastime among Farhaven citizens to speculate about what untold riches now sit in Valenport Mausoleum, the last physical vestige of the family that once held such power.
What's actually really cool about this book is the hints that it gives you towards the mausoleums. So for example, if you find this Valenport mausoleum, you're going to find there's a whole lot of items down there, etc., etc. There's another one that talks about just how many corpses were buried under one of the mausoleums. So it probably has a lot of coffins and so forth.
Miscellaneous. The noble houses of Farhaven 14 of 22.
Alright, unfortunately I'm going to have to call it quits there for the day. I know my timer has not gone off, but I'm going to have to call it quits and continue this next time. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and thank you for watching.
Pause menu. Save your game. Resume game. Exit game.